Hello, my name is Vedran Kesagic. I'm a Microsoft Certified Master and I will tell you about Power BI and how to examine performance counters using Power BI. Most of us track our server performance using one of the available tools in Windows, which is Performance Counters. So let's say we have this already recorded log with data. So we have performance data here. We will examine it by double-clicking on the BLG file. So let's look what we have here. So we can see very fast 3 and 0 pages. We can see some patterns here. We can see that we have it's SQL compilations per second. So it's a really nice tool for examining very fast something what is going on the server. But if you need to investigate, for example, about disk, logical disk is not so easy to see, because we see only total, we don't see instances. We could add it by hand, but that takes time. So and maybe we would like different views on this data. So we will use a more powerful tool, which is Power BI. Unfortunately, it requires some time for you to set up. But once you set up, then you can reuse this Power BI dashboard and fill it with new data, refresh the data, and you don't need to do it ever again. So let's start. First problem is how to bring this into Power BI. We could use SQL Server, of course, but we will this is example, and we will be it will be the simplest possible. So we will use a text file. This is binary file. We need to transfer or somehow transform it to a text file. So we have a help of one command, which is relog. You give it any number of binary log files of performance counters. This is only one, but I could have here as many as I like, separated by space, and then output to in format of table separated values. It's a text file. So let's run it. Now he's reading the file. It's about 50 megabytes. It takes a few seconds, and we now have a new file called SQL collector TSV tab separated file. It's here, so let's look at it. This is the tab separated file. So we have first the tab is between data. This is the tab, and the first column is time in certain format, and other numbers like number of transactions and other decimal numbers with certain format. So let's try to import it into Power BI. Let's see. We'll first turn on Power BI, and we will have problems with that because of formatting. This is the text, and we need to recognize the format of the date and time, the format of the decimal numbers, and this won't be out of the box. If you do it out of the box, you will get very strange numbers and nothing will fit. So let's click get data from various sources. You can get from various from database, but now we will from a file, text file. You can even entire folder scan for multiple files to load them together. So we will need just one file. So I'll click on the TSV. Now I need to select my file. I don't see it because we need to say all files, open TSV. Now I need to specify columns and types, but in text file there is no information about type. So Power BI will try to recognize the type based on first 200 rows. This is he doesn't recognize the exact type, so we will say do not detect data types, and we will say edit this data source, and we will do it manually. Now we first need to say that first row is name of the column, so we need to put this first row as the name of the column. So let's click here, use first row as headers. Now we have our column names. First column is time and the rest are numbers, but now they are recognized as text. You see ABC, and this is text ABC, you see, and the decimal separator is point. So here is also ABC, it's text. Everything is as text because we didn't recognize the types. So we right click, change type, and we won't click date time, we will click using locale. Because if you click date time, it will use my locale on this PC, and my locale do not match this date format. It would be wrong to click date time right away. We will use this dialog. So we click date time and US, English United States. So we need to scroll a bit. United States is okay. So this is now date time. You see this icon changed. Now the rest of the column we'll change them as a group. So I select first one, I shift click the last one, they are all selected, then I right click and again change type to using locale, not a decimal number, because he would use my locale, which would be wrong. So I'm using this dialog, decimal number, and again English United States, and click OK. Now the numbers are correct. See, what we must do now is we have bunch of columns here, but we need only I would like the column name to be to transpose these columns to a value, to name value, only to 2 columns. So let's do it like this. I will right click and say transform, no, unpivot, other columns, every columns except date time. So they are now transposed, unpivoted to 2 columns. Attribute is the previous column name, and we have a value. Now this is the complex path from server name, performance counter object, instance, and so we must separate it into separate columns to analyze them better. So I will now right click and say split column by delimiter, and delimiter is backslash. So it's already there to 5 columns because there are 2 backslashes at the beginning and 4 backslashes equals 5 parts. 4 separator means 5 parts. Although first 2 are empty, so I will remove it. First one, second one, and the server name is all the same, so I will remove it also. Now I have object name and in brackets instance name, and even how to separate it. Well, I will use the same technique by delimiter. I will use open bracket and click OK. Now we have object name and instance name separated, but there is a closing bracket here, so I need to remove it. I will replace values. I will replace closing bracket with nothing. I click OK. Now some of the instances are the same but with given number, ordinal number, with this hashtag. So I will remove it so that can be grouped into one instance. Let's do this. The same technique. I will split column by delimiter. Delimiter is again automatically hashtag, and here it is. I will just remove it. I want to group all CVC hosts together. So I will remove this column, and now I will name the columns properly. This one is, let's say it's time point. This is the object name. I'll put just object here. This is the counter name. Counter, let's put it here. And instance name. Instance of the counter. Like a subdivision of the counter. And we have also value. Now we prepared our data source. We click close and apply. Now we will do a few graphs out of it. But first we need to decide how will we filter it, and how will we group it and slice it into different parts. By what we will divide the values and summarize it. Well, by time for sure. So I need a graph by time, and maybe by counter, by instance, by something. So let's start with the graph, with normal graph. It's empty. I'll put filters up and graph here. So first I need a value. That is what we summarize the values, but we need to have on the axis, we need here on x-axis, we will have time. So time point is on the axis. Well, it's 2017 because it is hierarchy. It is year. We can go deeper to quarter, etc. with this, but I don't want to hierarchy. I want values, all time points. So I will click here and say I don't want hierarchy. I want all time points in the x-axis. So all the values are summarized here in every point, and this doesn't make sense because we summarize CPU percentage with let's say IOPS from the disk. That doesn't make sense. So we must filter it, we must separate it to be usable, to be better usable. So we have slicers for that. We click here and say I want to create a new slicer. And we will say it will be a performance counter object. So we have disk, memory, etc. And I want to also have another slicer which will further slice the data by counter. So when I click on logical disk, this counter is automatically filtered, and this graph is automatically filtered. Now it summarizes all the logical disk counters, writes IOPS with 3 megabytes. That also doesn't make sense. So I will need to select here something that is compatible values. But I also need to filter by another filter, by instance. So let me add another slicer. This will be instance. Now I can see the hard drives here, and I want also to, now I can filter on the N drive, for example, M drive, but I want to easily select everything. So I will go here and say selection control, select all on. Now I get this select all, and if I click one of them, I can easily turn them on or off. But single select is here. I don't want single select, I want multiple select. So I can select multiple items, you see, checkbox. Now we are getting somewhere. I will do that for every of this slicer. Single select, well, I can leave single select here. Now I need to even slice it even more by time. So let me introduce a new visual, custom visual, which will allow me to slice by time. So visuals, and it is time brush. Time brush imported into this dashboard. I will put it here. So this time brush, I need to add time point to it and a value. Now it represents all the sum of everything I selected here. If I select nothing, this will be the sum of all the values together. Now I will select only logical disk, bytes, disk reads per second and disk writes per second. That's compatible sizes, and I will select all the drives, and I want to here on the graph to see this IOPS separated by drive. So I need to add some kind of separation. I need to have 5 graphs I expect here. So I'll need instance. This is instance. I will need to divide by instance. So I'll drag as a legend instance. Now I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 graphs because total is here, and I don't want to have a total, so I will deselect it. Now I see the reads and writes summed together in every time point and divided by hard drives. Now I will limit the time to here. I see a peak here. So I see a peak here, which is P drive. Summarized reads and writes of the P drive. And we see M drive is here. But I don't know, is it read or write? I want to divide differently. So I will, once more, I will copy this graph. Copy paste, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Now the second graph, we will change the legend not to divide by instance but by counter. So we see reads and writes, or the opposite, excuse me, undo. So the first one, undo, the first one we will change it to counter. Legend is counter. So we see reads and writes. We see the reads of all hard drives summed in this point are almost 9,000 IOPS, and the same 9,500 is total, and this is mostly reads, very few writes. If we go here, we see the same 900 and something 9,000 something IOPS, that this is mostly on P drive. So we immediately see we are heavy on reading of P drive. Was that useful? I think very useful. So we will enhance it by one small enhancement also. Now we will add one more visualization, which is pie chart. Why pie chart? Well, because we want to see on average on entire this time area, this I don't know, 1 hour. We are looking at 1 hour of time. we want to see in this 1 hour, if we sum up all the read IOPS, all the write IOPS, who is bigger? I mean, we see in this part visually this one is, but maybe it is not always that obvious. So we will create a pie that is divided by counter. So we have a legend counter, and the value is here. So we visually have here that the most are the reads, vast majority. We will turn off title so it is bigger, and I will copy and paste it here, and I will change, instead of counter, I will change it to instance. And I see immediately that on this time area I have P drive that does the most IOPS, and those are reads. On some other time area, let's say here, time part, we see reads are also in majority, but maybe it's M drive. Let's click here. Now I filtered only, this graph was filtered only to this, what I clicked, but the second graph also changed. Look here. If I click here to the writes, we see only writes portion. So we see that N drive does the writes, and reads are mainly done by P drive here, and average is M. M has average, on average sum of all reads is bigger M drive, but P has peak. You see this like 2 dimensions, or 3 dimensions. So we will change this filtering behavior like this. We will go into data drill. No. Let's see where it is. Format, edit interactions. So we will say, when we change this, we won't do highlighting, we won't do filtering, actual filtering. So when I select here writes, I see that N drive does majority of writes in this time interval, M drive a bit less, others, and the reads, for reads we can see M drive does most of the reads. So I can choose another interval and explore it, expand it, see what happens. I can choose bytes per second or any other size. I mean, I would bytes per second, for example, bytes per second. So we see the most intensive part is here. Let's see which drive is it, and we see that this is P, M, and N. P, N, and M. We don't know which one is which one dominates. But okay, this is the powerful tool. Now I could save this as PBX, Perfmon Counters, and now I could I'm bound to this tab separated values file. I could rerun the relog to get some other data from other servers, from other places, multiple files, process them into text file, and click refresh data, reload. It would reload the data and show me the new data, which I can explore with this nice looking dashboard for Power BI. So I hope you find this very useful, and thank you very much for your attention. Bye.